This is day 6 of this September 2022 7-day session. And today we'll take up a koan. This is from the Blue Cliff record, the Hekegan Roku, number 53 for the record. And it's called Hyakujo and the Wild Duck. Here's how it goes. Once when Baso was out walking with his disciple, Hyakujo, he saw a wild duck fly past. Baso said, "What is it?" Hyakujo replied, "It's a wild duck." Baso said, "Where has it gone?" Hyakujo said, "It has flown away." Baso then twisted Hyakujo's nose. Hyakujo cried out in pain. Baso said, "Has it indeed flown away?" These are two of the most legendary of the Chinese Zen masters, the Chan masters, early ones. Madzu, the little factoid I always remember about him is that he had 139 enlightened disciples. Each one became a Zen master in his own right. They're both of the 8th century. And there's some details about the provinces where Madzu, his home province, and others he went to. Madzu went to the 5th ancestor, 5th patriarch, and there he received ordination as a Buddhist monk. Later he settled on a mountain, Mount Hung, and trained under a great master there, Nan Yue. And after 10 years of training, he received Dharma transmission and then proceeded to travel the length and breadth of China, perfecting his understanding of the Dharma. And this was not by train, wasn't even by horse. He's walking. Eventually, he settled down, and monks from every quarter came to train with him. I'm reading, as usual, from Zen's Chinese Heritage by Andy Ferguson. Unlike some other Zen masters of his time, Madzu did not leave an extensive written record of his teachings. Instead, we know him largely from imaginative legends that reflect the awesome sense of presence that he conveyed. What? He wrote no books? Huh. And I guess here this borders on legends. His appearance was most unusual. He strode like an ox and glared like a tiger. His extended tongue covered his nose. On the soles of his feet, his veins formed 2 circles. Could be seen as ensos, the calligraphic design in Zen, signifying our true mind, perfection. I'm skipping some material here that I don't think is useful to read. The 6th ancestor, Huineng, said, "Hereafter, from the area to which you will go, a horse will come forth and trample everyone in the world to death." And then he came to be known as, that Ma means horse, this Master Ma. And then just skips right to the teachings of this Ma Zu. By the way, his Japanese name is Baso. One day Ma Zu addressed the congregation of monks. "All of you here believe that your own mind is Buddha. This very mind is Buddha mind. When Bodhidharma came from India to China, he transmitted the supreme vehicle teaching of one mind, allowing people like you to attain awakening. Moreover, he brought with him the text of the Lankavatara Sutra, using it as the seal of the mind ground of sentient beings. He feared that your views would be inverted, and you wouldn't believe in the teaching of this mind that each and every one of you possesses. Therefore, Bodhidharma brought the Lankavatara Sutra, which offers the Buddha's words that mind is the essence, and that there is no gate by which to enter Dharma. Mind is the essence. Of course, he's not talking about what we in the West typically refer to as our mind. It's centered in our head, that performs all of these discriminating functions. You who seek Dharma should seek nothing. Apart from mind, there is no other Buddha. Apart from Buddha, there is no other mind. Sometimes we translate Buddha as enlightenment. It can be understood as awareness or enlightened awareness. Originally enlightened awareness. Apart from mind, there is no other originally enlightened awareness. Apart from originally enlightened awareness, there is no other mind. In other words, there aren't two minds. There isn't really mind with a capital M and mind with a small m. There's just mind. Mind. Illimitable. Do not grasp what is good, nor reject what is bad. Don't lean toward either purity or pollution. Arrive at the empty nature of transgressions, that nothing is attained through continuous thoughts, and that because there is no self-nature, the three worlds are only mind. the empty nature of transgressions. This is what has got so many teachers and others, Zen teachers and others, into trouble, having seen the fundamental emptiness of the precepts, the emptiness of morality itself, ignore that, yes, form is only emptiness, but emptiness is also only form. It's all too easy after even just a small awakening. One can justify ignoring the precepts. This has been the ruin of many. The truth is, they are empty. They're mental constructs. They're different from culture to culture, the precepts, ethical behavior, misconduct. But we are, in whatever culture we find ourselves, they have consequences, whether we break the precepts or not. The essential nature of a car is also empty, as it is our own essential nature. But if we step out in front of a car, we are injured. He says nothing is attained through continuous thoughts. Or our master yesterday, Fa Yin, it does not come from thought. The myriad forms of the entire universe are the seal of the single Dharma. Whatever forms are seen are but the perception of mind. But mind is not independently existent. It is codependent with form. Here he's equating mind with this realm of formlessness, emptiness. It co-arises with form. You should speak appropriately about the affairs of your own life, for each matter you encounter constitutes the meaning of your existence, and your actions are without hindrance. The fruit of the Bodhisattva way is just thus, born of mind, taking names to be forms. Because of the knowledge of the emptiness of forms, birth is non-birth. Comprehending this, one acts in the fashion of one's time, just wearing clothes, eating food, constantly upholding the practices of a bodhisattva, and passing time according to circumstances. That phrase, one acts in the fashion of one's own times, right? Just saying, we don't flaunt what is culturally appropriate. Here's a beauty, short. A monk asked Madzu, "What is the essential meaning of Buddhism?" Madzu said, "What is the meaning of this moment?" This word Buddhism was concocted by a a Western, I think he was a missionary who went to Asia and saw these Buddha figures and saw that there was some kind of religion going on there, and so he, not knowing how to refer to it, he referred to it as Buddhism. I say, it's the Dharma, the truth, the way, the moment. This. Here's one involving the layman Pang, who's in Zen history is considered one of the three greatest enlightened of the non-monks, the lay people. Layman Pang asked Matsu, "Would the master please give your esteemed view of the clear-eyed ancestors?" Matsu looked down. Layman Pang said, "Other teachers can't play the lute, only the master does it so sublimely." I assume he's speaking in metaphor here. Matsu then looked up. Layman Pang bowed. Matsu then returned to the abbot's room. Layman Pang followed him, saying, "Just now something skillful turned awkward." Layman Pang also asked, "Although water has no muscle or bone, it supports 10,000-pound ships. What is the principle this displays?" Matsu said, "Here there is neither water nor boat. How can you speak of muscle and bone?" I think of this analogy, I haven't read it exactly in these terms, but I think of it in Sesshin as we see the tide rise as the days go on. And it's this power of mind to bear anything. It's this inexorable force of a rising tide that can lift even an aircraft carrier, to put it in modern terms. One evening, Matsu's three principal disciples were out with him viewing the moon, and Matsu asked them at just this moment, "What is it?" The first one, Shidong, said, "Perfect support." The second one, Baizhang, that's Hyakujo in our koan today, Baizhang said, "Perfect practice." And then the third one, Nanshuan, just shook his sleeves and walked away. Matsu said, "A sutra enters the Buddhist canon. Zen returns to the sea. Only Nanshuan has gone beyond things." Certainly went beyond words. Baizhang asked, "What is the essential import of the school?" that is, of Zen. Mazu said, "It's just the place where you let go of your body and life. Your life of thoughts that sustains this illusion of a self. Sustains the illusion of separateness. Another time, Mazu asked Baizhang, again, these are the two guys in today's koan. Mazu asked Baizhang, "What teaching do you offer people?" Baizhang, the disciple, held his whisk up straight. They had a fly whisk that they used, the masters of old used in their teachings. Baizhang held his whisk up straight. Mazu said, "Just this? Nothing more?" Baizhang threw down the whisk. A monk asked, "How can one gain accordance with the way?" Mazu said, "I've never gained accordance with it." Emphasis on the word gain. The monk asked, "What is the essential meaning of Zen?" Mazu struck him and said, "If I didn't hit you, I'd be laughed at from every direction." I wish so much I could be there for these. This is such minimal information we're getting with just these words of text, these lines of text. I've sometimes thought if I could find a time machine, I think this is where I'd want to go, back to the Tang Dynasty. And now a certain government official, a magistrate, Lian, asked Mazu, "Should one drink wine and eat meat or not?" He would have known that this is a basic Buddhist precept not to drink alcohol or eat meat. And Master Ma said, "If you consume wine and meat, it is your privilege. If you don't consume wine and meat, it is your bliss." In the first month of the year 788, it probably would be in the Chinese calendar, it'd be February of 788, the master climbed Shimmen Mountain in Jianchang. There, as he was walking in the woods, he saw a flat spot in a cave and said to his attendant, "This ruined old body of mine will return to the ground next month." These words came to pass. He subsequently became ill. The temple director asked him, "How has the master's honored condition been lately?" To which Mazu said, "Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha." That's a koan itself in the same collection, the Blue Cliff Record. And he died, sitting in a cross-legged position, they say. that phrase, "this ruined old body of mine," resonates in a way it didn't when I was here in Sesshin working on Mu. And now, the second great monk and master in this koan, Baizhang, Hyakujo. All right, I'm going to try to remember to substitute the Chinese in this koan. So the master is Mazu, and the disciple is Baizhang rather than Hyakujo. Baizhang took his vows as a monk in the Vinaya school, under a Vinaya master. That's a school that it's not Zen, it's a school that you work to master the precepts, master purity of conduct. He was brilliant and learned as a young man. And then he went on to train under Mazu. Baizhang was one of the three most illustrious disciples of Mazu. Baizhang, we read here from Zen's Chinese heritage, really brought Chan, Zen, to earth. He writes here, the author writes here, that a physical body, he taught that overemphasis on mind as kind of this, and the emptiness side of things, while degrading the role of body, leads to unethical behavior and nihilism. Here, Buddhism's emphasis on the middle way takes complete form in a tradition too susceptible previously to philosophical idealism and metaphysics. Yeah, the Chinese really brought it to ground. And that is, you see too in how Baizhang became famous for having come up with the monastic rules and regulations. He established the so-called pure rules for Zen monasteries and brought Zen's unruly iconoclasm under greater control. These rules also reinforced the independence of Zen as a religious movement and forestalled the tradition's absorption into China's imperial religious establishment. The pure rules were part of the process of redefining Buddhist ethics so that the religion could survive independently in China. The rules also provide evidence of the substantial changes that China needed to make to the tradition, that is, to make it their own, make it a Chinese tradition, pull it free of Indian culture. Now monks who left the world could survive through their own labor and not just through contributions from the lay community. This is sounds quite similar to what we read, but not quite, so I'll read it. On one occasion, Baizhang was in attendance to Mazu. He saw the abbot's whisk sitting on its stand and said, if someone uses this, can they also not use it? Mazu said, in the future, if you travel to some other place, how will you help people? And there, Baizhang picked up the whisk, held it upright. Mazu said, if you use it this way, what other way can it be used? Baizhang placed the whisk back on its stand, at which Mazu suddenly let out an earth-shaking shout so loud that Baizhang was deaf for 3 days. Baizhang said to him, in the future, will you carry on Mazu's... Oh, this is Wangbo. Sorry. A monk asked Baizhang, how can a person gain freedom? Baizhang said, if you attain it at this moment, then you've attained it. If you can instantly cut off the emotions of the self, the 5 desires and winds of attachment, the greed and covetousness, the pollution and purity, that is to say, all delusive thoughts, then you'll be like the sun and moon hanging in space, purely shining. The mind like wood and stone, thoughts spared from worldly entrapments, like a great elephant crossing a river, engulfed in the rapids, but taking no missteps. Heaven and hell can't pull in such a person. When that person reads a sutra or observes a teaching, the words return to the person. The person knows that all teachings with words are only a reflection of the immediacy of self-nature and are just meant to guide you. Such teachings don't penetrate the revolving realms of existence and non-existence. Only diamond wisdom penetrates the revolving realms of existence and non-existence and thus constitutes complete, independent freedom. In other words, teaching beyond words and concepts. Here's an important one, very momentous one. Zen Master Baizhang entered the hall to give a lecture to the monks. When the monks had assembled, he suddenly leaped off of the Dharma seat and drove them from the hall with his staff. Just as they were running out of the hall, he called to them. When they turned around, he said, "What is it?" And then the story about him and manual labor. In the everyday work of the monastery, Baizhang always was foremost among the assembly at undertaking the tasks of the day. The monks in charge of the work were concerned about the master. This is when he was very, very old. They hid his tools and asked him to rest. Baizhang said, "I am unworthy. How can I allow others to work in my behalf?" So they hid his tools, and he looked everywhere for them but was unable to find them. He even forgot to eat while looking for his tools. And thus came the phrase, "A day without working is a day without eating." Very famous Zen phrase. All right, now finally we'll get to the koan. It is a short one. Once when Matsu was out walking with his disciple Baizhang, he saw a wild duck fly past. And Matsu sees an opportunity for teaching, and he turns to Baizhang and says, "What is it?" Test number 1. Baizhang replied, "It is a wild duck." Well, good, conventional, correct answer from that perspective. So Matsu, feeling indulgent, thought he'd give him another shot. So he said, "Where has it gone?" To which Baizhang said, "It has flown away." The key thing here is the it. What is it? What is this? So Matsu then twisted Hyakujo's nose, or Baizhang's nose. Baizhang cried out in pain, and to which Matsu said, "Has it really flown away? This it?" In one of these books, I read that this was the first recorded instance of a Zen master using pain as a way to awaken the mind of a disciple. Of course, pain brings us back to the physical, gets us out of our thoughts and concepts. At its best, it has that potential. Of course, Matsu is asking about really the essence. And he knows that mind is the essence. He knows, too, as we read earlier, that whatever forms are seen, duck, trees, moon, sparrows, are but the perception of mind. Back to a name and form, which we talked earlier in session about name and form. We have all these different shapes and forms of objects. We give them different names, and then we become convinced that they're separate. We also come to believe that space is also fragmented, and time. So you see this answer of Baizhang's, "It's flown away." It's like saying, time has passed. Well, hang on. What is time anyway? How could time pass? It's just a concept. We know that, well, we can be reasonably sure that animals don't think of time at all, much less that it's past. It's just this. Now. Ouch. In affirming faith and mind, we say, make movement rest and nothing moves. Seeing into the essential nature of things is to see that there is no this or that. There's no change from that perspective. He's not coming or going. In fact, we said this in the Hakumen chant. Our form now being no form, In coming and going, we never leave home. It really goes right to the heart of this koan. Our form now being form, seeing form as formlessness. Then we also realize that there's no coming or going. We are always here, now. The only space is this. The only time is this, now. This is just Madzu's efforts at helping, trying to shake Baizhang out of this half view of things. In Japan, in Japanese Zen, they sometimes talk about a plank carrying person. The idea is that if you're carrying a plank on your shoulder, on the one shoulder, you can't see except in one direction. You can only see on one side. So Baizhang starts off as a plank-carrying person as he's walking along there. And he just sees, what he sees is a wild duck. Okay, we got the name down, a wild duck. There's more to the story. The koan just takes part of the story. And after Madzu twists his nose, Baizhang cries out in pain. He came to awakening. And then he went back to the attendance room, and Baizhang was crying loudly. One of the other attendants, it sounds like there's a whole stable of attendants at these huge monasteries. One of the other attendants asked Baizhang, "Are you homesick?" So beautiful. That would be his first question. It humanizes these monks. They got homesick. They never saw their parents. Baizhang said, "No." The attendant said, "Did someone curse at you?" Baizhang said, "No." The attendant said, "Then why are you crying?" Baizhang said, "Master Ma twisted my nose so hard that the pain was unbearable." The attendant said, "What did you do that offended him?" as if that's why he did it, because he was offended. Baizhang said, "You go ask him." So the attendant, that other attendant, went to Madzu and said, What did attendant Baizhang do to offend you? He's in his room crying. Please tell me." He might have been indignant. He may have been scolding him. The great teacher said, "He himself knows. Go ask him." The attendant returned to Baizhang's hut and said to him, "The master says that you already know, so I should come here and ask you." At which Baizhang laughed out loud. Now the attendant is completely flummoxed. "A moment ago you were crying, so why are you laughing now?" Baizhang said, "My crying a moment ago is the same as my laughing now." The attendant was bewildered by Baizhang's behavior. The next day Madzu went to the hall to address the monks. Just when the monks had finished assembling, in other words, the Han was playing, they were settling into their seats, Baizhang, his attendant, rolled up his sitting mat. In other words, it's like taking away the mat from the Tan. Madzu got down from his chair, and Baizhang followed him to the abbot's room. Madzu said, Just now I hadn't said a word. Why did you roll up the sitting mat?" Baizhang said, Yesterday the master painfully twisted my nose. Mazu said, is there anything special about yesterday that you've noticed? And then Baizhang, he wasn't going to be caught in that division of time. He said, today my nose doesn't hurt anymore. To which Mazu said, then you really understand what happened yesterday. Baizhang then bowed and went out. Notice that after his awakening, he was crying painfully. Well, that's what we might do when we're in a great deal of pain. That too is perfect expression of Zen. Oh. Just this. We'll stop now and recite the 4 vows.